I'm hoping that's enough light. This episode is brought to you by Jameson Black Barrel, because Jameson. I used to be much more of a gin drinker, but I tried to stop so I could be as coherent with these as I could, and then I found myself to be, then I started boring myself. So I decided to make sure that I could at least loosen up a little bit. And I still feel like I'm super tight. I don't know why. A lot has happened, and some kind of big things for me personally, but not like big in the grand scheme of things. For instance, I did a collaboration / idea exchange, but a really public idea exchange with the one and only Mike Johnston. And if you guys are looking at me, hopefully you guys know who he is. If you don't, look him up. He is a YouTube OG when it comes to online drum instruction. I've watched him for years and years and years, and it was an honor to get to know him a little, to share ideas with him. Hold on one second. I'm getting tired of holding the Jameson. I want to talk about more than just this. I want to talk about like real life and why I don't upload that much. So it's interesting with this channel. I don't quite know what I'm going to do yet, at least what I'm trying to do. I started because I felt that there was a shortage when it came to real, authentic content online. And I am fairly new to all of it, but I've been watching YouTube for a while. And after a while, it seems formulaic and contrived. At least you had a couple of camps. You have the people that are more from my generation and older that kind of took the old internet model of videos, and everything was very dry. Everything is to the point. That's fine. That's still good, right? If the information is good, who cares? Some people don't like jokes. Some people don't like the jump cuts or whatever. If you want your stuff to look polished and pristine, like an instructional video, but just on YouTube, more power to you. But then there are the people my age and a little younger. Everything is super personal. It's this vlog / video essay style of some sort of perceived authenticity. The actual level of authenticity can always be debated, but I always felt more at home with turning on the camera and just talking. Even to this day, right now, I have a vague idea of what I want to talk about, and I'll edit it later. But with my life and the fact that I have a real teaching practice in real life, I have real gigs in real life. I guess some people wouldn't call them real gigs because, I play in a wedding band, I play in bars. I love the people I play with, and I get to do it for a living, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that I'm not out there playing for 50,000 people every night. That's not my life yet. But because of that, I really just record when I get around to it, and that's not the best marketing model per se when it comes to trying to get out there on social media, how to make it on YouTube or whatever. And you would I'm kind of conflicted because making it really isn't my goal. My a couple of you have already expressed your appreciation to me about how I do things and how I lay out information and the fact that I'm willing to do it at all. And at this point, that's enough. I like doing it because I like doing it. Surprise, surprise. I don't have enough views or subscriptions to make this channel monetize. Some people talked about a Patreon. I'll do that when it feels right. People that put their content behind paywalls, I get it. You're trying to build a business. I, again, may be following suit at some point, but right now, there is a part of me that feels cathartic. This feels cathartic. I feel catharsis. I need to take an English class again. My main priorities are obviously teaching in real life and gigging in real life and trying to get better at the drums. And maybe I'll start announcing when I start doing these in the future, just to let you guys know that one is coming. But for now, I guess I could aim for once a month or once every 6 weeks, but I'm about to hit the busiest time for me with the fall going. I play in a wedding band, so the wedding season is coming up. I play shows at a college once to twice a week, along with other weekly gigs and things that come up. I'm probably going to do a jam night here soon, so I'm looking at 4 or 5 consistent no matter what gigs, and it's going to be hard enough as it is just to keep up with those. I might still do it. It might be like a vlog form, again, just to keep you guys up to date with where my head is and the types of things that I've been thinking about lately. But for now, this is what it is. So, Mike Johnston. We did a fairly deliberate... Mike was very specific about the way that he wanted to approach it. First, what he wanted to do was to make sure that you guys knew that none of this was a competition, that all of this was to inspire people to collaborate together, to share information, to share ideas, to have, for the most part, an accountability partner or a workout buddy, but for drum set. I thought it was brilliant, so obviously I agreed to do it. Based on my impression of him, it just seems like he is a version of the dude that he presents online, which is brilliant, because something that I hate is seeing somebody that you respect turn out to be completely different in a bad way when you meet them or when you talk to them. Unfortunately, I think I have this problem because depending on where I am, depending on the situation, how I feel, I can be a touch standoffish because, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I'm not the person to just go up to people and say hey or whatever, but he seems to be every bit as warm and as a good dude as he seems, and everybody that I've talked to about him echoes this sentiment. People that have known him for longer than I have, obviously. So that's enough about him specifically. I'm going to be talking about how I approached the material that he gave me. First, I guess I need to show you guys the rest of the video.
Jonathan, what's up, buddy? Hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. All right, here's my challenge for you. You're going to start with an ostinato with your feet. Any ostinato you want. It could be samba, bayo, tumbao, or you can make up your own. The hands are going to be playing double strokes, nothing but double strokes. Right hand will be on the floor tom, left hand will be on the rack tom, and you cannot move from that orchestration. So ostinato of choice, double strokes between floor tom and rack tom. Tempo for this one's going to be 110 to 120, so we're not going too fast. But your challenge is, how creative can you be without moving, without changing the subdivision, without changing the sticking? The only thing you have to use for creativity is the dynamics.
Before I get to my challenge and why I gave it to him, I want to just say out loud that Mike's an asshole. Not personally, but the first thing I thought was, how in the world am I supposed to gain any degree of freedom with a concept? This is not an exercise. These aren't licks per se. They aren't patterns. Mike even told me that was sort of the point, because he felt like if he gave me a pattern, if he gave me a lick or whatever, I would just learn that and that would be that. He wanted to put me inside of a box or constrain me and force me to be as creative as possible within a certain amount of rules. And I love that. I practice that way. I teach my kids this way. That's just not, at least not with double strokes per se, I haven't really practiced that. So the first thing I had to do was figure out how in the world to gain some amount of freedom with accents with double strokes. So the first thing I did was I took double strokes themselves and I made sure that, because I had parameters, right? So just to go over my parameters again, I had to, within the 110, 120 range, over an ostinato, without my hands moving from drum to drum, use double strokes and accent specific points strategically to make music inside the double stroke. So my hands could only do right, left, right, left. I had to make sure that I could accent every part of that. The first right, second right, the first left, the second left. So what I did was I took my 16th note partials. Sorry, that's a mistake. So it's not that I'd never done it before, but I'd never improvised with it. Before, when I was working on this stuff, or at least to figure out how to do it, I took groups of 3, 5, and 7 and worked with those so I could accent groups in 3, 5, and 7, period. That's not enough to improvise with, specifically because all the ideas in my head aren't 3, 5, and 7. So I had to figure out how to accent other things in real time. First thing I did was I took my 16th note partials through the double strokes. That is accenting the quarter note, 1, 2, 3, and 4, every E, every and every That took me through accenting every part of the double stroke separately. Then with the 2-note partials, it got a little bit complicated because you had 1 E and a 1. I had the hardest time with a 1 and E and because they were different strokes or different types of strokes for different hands. E and had you do a pull out with the right hand and then a controlled stroke with your left. And if you want to know what a pull out and a controlled stroke is, go f yourself. No, I'm joking. A controlled stroke is whenever you have an accent followed by an unaccented note, and a pull out is the opposite. You have an unaccented note followed by an accent. If you've ever discovered molar or you practiced that, this is why, to deal with sort of weird accent patterns and things, or at least that's part of the reason. That's one of the things that it can help out. So I sat there and I played into a pillow all of these different combinations while my wife watched TV, because we still have to have family time, even if that family time comes at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, both of us are night owls, and she was completely understanding about what was happening. She was excited for me because even though she had never heard of Mike Johnston before, she knew it was a big deal to me and whatever. And so that's all I did for day 1. That's it. I didn't go to the drum set because I felt, and this turned out to be true, because I work with coordination a lot, that would be the easiest thing for me to do. So I let that be absolutely last. I didn't work on any feet or anything like that. I just worked on the hands. Day 2, I worked on trying to do some of the odd groupings that I had never done before. For instance, whenever I saw the 3, 5, and 7 taught, it was always single accents, not the 2 accent or 2 accent 5, a 2 accent 3, or the 3 accent 7. Like this. I went through all those because all of those are things that I use that come out in my playing regularly. I tried a tip that Mike gave me. Just go through rhythms that you know. Claves, whatever. He said he uses a Cascara. I'm not there yet. So I used claves, and I used what I feel like is a secret weapon of mine, which I probably can't do for you right now because it's been a couple of days since I practiced it. The Super Mario Brothers theme song. I think the Super Mario Brothers theme song is rhythmically and melodically complex enough to be interesting to work into exercises. Anytime that you're trying to gain some independence, I always gauge where I am based on if I can play whatever I'm playing against the rhythm of the Super Mario Brothers theme song. I know that might sound cheesy. I was born in 1985. I've been playing that video game my whole life, so sue me. After I did this poorly, I only had one more day to really get it together. So I spent the last day working on getting these accents, getting the double strokes through New Breed. So what I tried to do is keep double strokes going and play through New Breed. Now, because I'm rusty with a lot of, it took me a while to get work back up, but I did it, or at least I did it through the first couple of pages in some of the advanced reading because time is limited. I didn't have an opportunity to go through absolutely everything in New Breed. And I just tried to make sure that it was as solid as possible. And then the final day, I got up super early and then did this. Hey, Mike, Sorry, my eyes are red. I promise you it's because of a nap, not because of something else. My homework for you kind of pulls you into my world a little bit. So as you know, I love polyrhythms and testing my coordination. And so my challenge to you is simple-ish. Using a paradiddle diddle to mark a 6-note grouping, can you play a 7-note grouping and the quarter note on the hi-hat while keeping the form? You're going to play a groove for 4 measures, then you're going to use this polyrhythm as a fill for 4 measures, and then try to, not lose your spot. I hope you have fun with it. I'm definitely having fun with yours, and I hope to talk to you soon. This idea is kind of a pet of mine, so It was really interesting to see something that I came up with. I feel like, again, it's, a lot of people have probably done things like this, but something that came from me to be played by someone that I feel like is a staple in the community. I gave him what I gave him. I could have given him something harder. He could have probably given me something harder too, but that wasn't the point. The point was I was trying to connect things that I'd seen him do in a way that I would do them. So I've seen him do 5 and 7 note groupings before. I know he knows what paradiddle diddles are, and I've seen enough of his videos to sort of understand the type of thing that he does. If I were to see a video and someone's doing some basic sort of cross rhythmic stuff, I would immediately add a rhythm or two just to make it interesting, because I found that it wasn't until I started adding a second rhythm that I really became intimately aware of balance issues with how certain rhythms lay. I can play 7 all day, but as soon as you tell me to play 7 and 5, things start to fall apart. I can conceptualize both of them. I mean, not fall apart now, but when I first started, it started to fall apart. It also wasn't really about that. So for me, the basis of all of this weird coordination stuff that I do isn't just to say that you can do it. It's freedom. Freedom to play more than one idea at once, or to hint at an idea while keeping something else, is kind of the important part. So, and I come from that tradition, right? This is very much a holdover from my Alan Dawson syncopation studies, right? That book, Drummer's Complete Vocabulary, which I've talked about before, it means a lot to me. It wasn't so much to say that if you play a paradiddle diddle and a 7-note grouping, it sounds cool. It's that here, okay, so let's say you're playing in a band and you're playing in an improvisational setting. All of a sudden you start with an idea, and this idea is a cross-rhythmic idea, and your bass player is like, I'm going to not do that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do something else, or I am going to keep the same part. Keeping the same part would probably be fine, because, us bass players and drummers, we have this drive to kind of hold things together, even when sometimes things are out. Sometimes we have this sense of like, okay, we're still here on planet Earth. Sometimes we all go in different directions and smack back, and that's also fun. But let's say that he plays something else and you like that something else. What do? Do you bail out on that idea and then join the bass player? Or my conclusion was a little bit different. My conclusion was, what if I could play some of these rhythmic ideas, but also either play call and response or try to catch some of the bass player's phrases while still in mid-thought. And so if the whole band is playing a dotted eighth figure together and everybody's smacking on that and it's super tight, I'm not necessarily bound to that idea. I could do other things. I have other limbs. I can play counterpoint. I can play the original groove, like I do here. Just giving yourself as many options as possible allows for different types of counterpoint, different types of dynamics. At least that's my opinion on it. All of these things are to prepare me for situations in which I have certain things going on, but I want to play the piano player's part or the guitar player's part or the bass player's part too. And so that was something that I wanted to bring. I think the idea was to push each other out of our comfort zones, to take some of our idiosyncrasies or routines and say, hey, I know that you're great, I know that you do your thing well, but have you tried this? And it was a really rewarding experience, and it's stuff that I'm actually still working on, which I really appreciate. I have more to talk about, but that's going to have to wait until another time. 1, 2